Ublaloatak, Kanuik Pizzy. Today is Thursday. What day? All day today. Let's be responsible. Always try. Do our best. Cooperate with others. And let's treat everyone with respect, including ourselves. Well, we all know that COVID's been going around. Did you know that the guidelines have changed? There's some new things we need to know and understand about COVID, especially if you might start feeling sick or if you might have been exposed to COVID. So first, let's consider what you should do if you test positive or if you have symptoms. Now, remember our last video about Omicron? Let's go over the symptoms. Runny nose, sneezing, sore throat, and headaches. In fact, a lot of times it seems like you have a bad cold and sometimes a headache along with it. And the symptoms can also be kind of mild. Some people only have a runny nose. So if you test positive or you have symptoms, let's figure out what you're supposed to do. First of all, I want you to know that what we're going to talk about here is for everyone, vaccinated or not. Are you ready? This first sentence is a biggie. You need to isolate for at least 5 days after the onset of symptoms or the day that you tested positive. Wow, let's think about that for a minute. Isolate for at least 5 days after your symptoms start or the day you tested. That means if you get some of these symptoms, you're supposed to not go out. You're supposed to stay home, even isolating yourself. And that's supposed to take 5 days to make sure that you're not positive. What else do you think you should do? Maybe get tested and find out if you are positive. So isolate for at least 5 days after the onset of symptoms or the day you tested. After 5 days, if you are fever-free for 24 hours and symptoms are resolving, that means going away, you can leave isolation. Let's check that again. You do your 5 days. After those 5 days, if you have no fever for 24 hours and you're getting better, you can leave isolation. So what do you get to do after you leave isolation? You have to wear a mask around others and monitor your symptoms for another 5 days. Wow. It also says you should consult your doctor before ending isolation. So let's make sure we understand that. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. If you test positive or have symptoms on day 1, right here, you're supposed to isolate day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. That's if you tested positive or have symptoms. Then, at day 5, you get to do something different. You're going to do a check. Right here, you're going to say, do I still have a fever? And if you have no fever for 24 hours, and if you're getting better, you don't have to isolate anymore. But for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more days, you have to wear a mask. Now, why would that be? Why would you be wearing a mask for those 5 days? I bet you can answer that question yourself. It's because it's possible that you are still contagious. Now, I know some of you are going to ask the next question. What if you don't have any symptoms and you didn't test positive, but you were around somebody who had COVID-19? what to do now. You're a close contact, right? Now we have two different sets of guidelines. Let's take a look at these. If you are up to date on your vaccines, you don't need to quarantine if you're a close contact. What you do need to do is wear a mask around others for 10 days and test at least 5 days after you are exposed to COVID-19. What about if you're not vaccinated? If you're not vaccinated, or if you haven't gotten all your vaccinations, like maybe just the first one, you have to quarantine for a full 5 days after exposure, then wear a mask around others for 10 days, and also test at least 5 days after you were exposed to COVID-19. Oh boy, that's a lot of stuff to remember. Let's take a look at that again. So if you are exposed to COVID-19 and you are vaccinated, you have to wear a mask for a total of 10 days. And right here on day 5, you're going to make sure you test. Now, if you are unvaccinated, you are actually going to quarantine for those first 5 days. So you won't be out and about. Then you're going to mask right here for the next 5 days to make sure you're not contagious. And you're also going to make sure you test on day 5. So there's a pretty big difference here in that if you're unvaccinated, you have to make sure you quarantine because there's a high chance that you will catch the virus. These guidelines were all put out by Norton Sound Health Corporation, which helps us stay safe and healthy, and they follow the CDC guidelines. Remember, if you or a family member do test positive or have been exposed to COVID-19 and need groceries, supplies, or other support, you can call the Norton Sound Health Quarantine Team. Here's their number right here. That's during normal business hours. There's even another number right here you could call after hours and on weekends. If you have medical questions, you can call the local clinic or the nurse call line. Here's their number right here. And you can also email this COVID email address with any questions related to COVID-19. We're all hoping that things will get more and more back to normal as time goes on. These guidelines have changed from what they were last October, haven't they? So let's pay attention to some of the new guidelines and follow them, and remember about the extra 5 days of masking. During that time, you'll need to wear your mask all the time when you're out. And if you have to take your mask off to eat, it's important to sit separate from your friends because we don't want to make anyone else sick, okay? All right, guys, have a wonderful and awesome day. Kids in NACTAC classes, looks like you guys are learning lots. It's fun to see all the action. Have a wonderful day.